Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Joe Show. I'm your host, Joseph Decker. We're going to be live today on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, talking about highlighting kind of week 2 of the basketball scene in Kentucky. We're going to be talking about King of the Bluegrass, which is just tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow through Sunday. So I hope everyone can enjoy today's show. I hope everybody gets to learn something out of it, kind of get to know some of these other guys. We're going to be talking about basketball stock risers. We're going to be talking about kids who have kind of just elevated themselves through the last few weeks. We're going to be talking about the top games this weekend at the KOB and a lot more. We got top 10 teams. We got a little bit of everything. It's a rough hair day over here, so I'm really not going to try to hold you guys too long today. Last time we did the week 1 recap, the show went for about an hour. So making sure that's all good and going on Facebook. Facebook's always been a little slower than Instagram. I've never known why. So let's go ahead and get this all tuning in. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in early today. It's a weird time like always. Through the weekdays, it's kind of hard to get these shows pumped out at a time where everybody can get in and watch at the same time. So 2:30 Central Time kind of makes it where some of the guys are getting out of school, time they can kind of tune in and enjoy the show. It's making it a lot more accessible for, the fans who can watch it. With some people, maybe the work hour dying down a little bit more time. So let me do this. Go ahead and get this rolling on Twitter and Facebook. Everybody, how you doing today? Hope everybody's doing great. It's a great day for a lot of basketball fans because it's Tuesday. Tuesday's always loaded with some of the best games around the state. But more importantly, we get to open up King of the Bluegrass Wednesday through Sunday. So that's really going to be fun. There's going to be a large topic of today's show where we'll be talking about the event at King of the Bluegrass. So with a lot of more people tuning in right now, let's go ahead and get into this show. Today we're going to be talking about everything about week 2 of the high school basketball scene. We did week 1 last week. It did really good. It went over well. People seem to really enjoy it. So hopefully you guys can enjoy this one too. Today's show is brought to you by Patton Funeral Home, Stacy's on Main, Tent Studios. Excuse me, that just completely blared for a second though. But Grayville Funeral Home, Stacy's on Main, Tent Studios, Patton Funeral Home, and Vet City Barbershop. Thank you all so much for sponsoring. We're adding some new sponsors to the list that we'll be talking about for the next coming shows in the next following week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this show a little bit. It's been a fun week. We had the Derby City tip-off, which was a huge success. Billy Hicks comes to an end. There's multiple other, the Carl Deaton. So, there was just so many tournaments that was taking place in that last week. We got to see a lot of high-quality, great basketball games, which got a lot of people excited for the basketball season. One thing the Derby City tip-off did so good was getting people from all kinds of communities to come watch. It was obviously great for the Louisville community to come because there were so many Louisville teams there. But, it was even better for those, from Lexington. We had a lot of people in there watching from Lexington, traveling with Great Crossing. I've seen some Douglas fans there. Just people coming to watch good, high-quality basketball, especially at the high school level. And, that's how it's going to be for King of the Bluegrass. King of the Bluegrass has been hyped up to another extreme. It's always consistently the best event we got. We got a lot of media that's going to be there. We got a lot of coaches, a lot of scouts, a lot of everybody just going to be there to enjoy the great basketball. But we're going to get into that a little later. I want to kind of talk about some of our top performers. So let's go ahead and look into week 2. This kind of takes place from, last Tuesday when we did the show, so the 11th, and it kind of takes place to now. So we're going to try to do like that 6-day period of the top performers. And first, let's hit on the top scoring performers who put up the most points in the week, and that was Kayvon Ennis at Southern, who put up 52 points. He would follow that up with a 36-point game, a 37-point game. He's kind of been carrying Southern to a few of their victories. He's been on fire, accounted for over 150 points in the last week. So he really has been one of the top scorers, one of the top players in the state so far, looking to make a big name for himself. He's a senior. Recruitment maybe is went a little slow. Going to start boosting a lot more coaches looking at him. His Twitter, go to our Twitter, Joseph Decker 23, and you can find this kid's Twitter. You can find his highlights. You can find everything, if you want to know about him. And number 2, we knew he had a slower week to start off. He had some rough shooting nights. He still was able to get 30 points, a few assists, but he had some rough shooting nights to his standards. But Ty Price was able to get that 50 bum, which he had been talking about wanting to get, and he did it against Whitesville Trinity. Butler County's been dealing with a lot. We'll get into that a little later. But Butler County really needed a big game from Ty to kind of boost some of the energy. They would go into Derby City tip-off and unfortunately lose Saturday to a team that we're going to talk about in our stock risers. But just a really good efficient performance from Ty. He added 4 assists to it, accounted for about 60 points of the team's offense. and they scored 90 plus. So well over 50% of the team's offense came from Ty that night. And then Jacob Spurlock, against one of the top teams in Alabama, was able to put up 44 points. Spurlock has consistently been one of the top players in the state these last 2 years. And with this being his junior season, he's really taken that role of wanting to be one of the best players in the state. A lot of people already put him in that debate, and I'm not against it. He's a lethal shooter. His rebound game for being a guard is great. The guy's averaging, I think it was 28 points, 10 rebounds. His numbers have been great. Yeah, 27.7 points on 9 rebounds. He's an all-around great guard. He's a lethal shooter, lethal scorer. But, he plays defense. He grabs boards. He had a really successful campaign with Indiana Elite this summer. So we can see him kind of bringing those trends and bringing that, into his game during the season. They've lost a few rough games. They've lost a few tough, hard-scheduled games. I think they're on a 3-game losing streak right now. They lost to Ashland Blazer, a little bit of a blowout, a win that Ashland Blazer really needed, and a loss that, Boyd County really didn't need. But then they went on. They played Springdale Prep, and then they played Buckhorn. And, I believe their next game is Thursday against Winter Haven in Florida. So they just got such a tough schedule, man. But, you'll be 3-4 in December. But those games really add up. Those games really matter whenever you get into March because you played that strong competition. You know that level of play. So you can kind of go into March and, be ready for that. You play teams that's strong too. And you already know what you're doing. I like the schedule for Boyd County. They still have to play Bryan Station. So that'll be a really fun game. I think Bryan Station is a top 10 team in the state. We'll get into that here in a second too of me highlighting my top 10 teams. So I think that'll be a big test for Boyd County, see what they can do. I'm pretty sure they had a few small injuries. So they weren't necessarily 100%, but looking to see them and Jacob Spurlock continue to bounce back and be dominant. Let's move on to some of our other lists. And the next one is stock risers for teams. So stock risers is kind of like teams who, they've been getting some wins that boost their stock. They've been having some guys step up. They've just kind of been rising their names up the ranking slowly and slowly. Some of these teams might not be top 10, but that's okay. Now, last night, DuPont Manual actually lost to Ballard. So you could replace DuPont with Ballard. You could keep both of them there. I'm not against it. It was a strong game. A lot of people kind of slept on Ballard and the talent they had. I think Blake Russell's one of the best big men we have. Sam Frazier, another great player. So, Ballard gets that win over DuPont by less than 5 points. So it's really a battle. Covington Catholic has to be here. And they really do. Covington Catholic, honestly, was verge top 10 for me. Top 10 teams in the state. And some people might not really expect that out of them, but they're 3-1 right now. They lost to Great Crossing Saturday, 71-60. So they probably did the second or third best job competing with Great Crossing, which Great Crossing is my number 2 team in the state. So when you compete with a team that has that level of talent, that highly regarded, and you compete with them like that, it's a big deal. It definitely boosts your stock. It boosts you as a team. And they play Simon Kenton tonight. They will play St. Vincent, St. Mary's, Open Akron. They'll play Ballard. They'll play Lloyd Memorial. Now, that region is going to be really fun this year to see how that plays out, because Holy Cross Covington has also been getting a lot of respect. Actually, I believe it or not, Covington Catholic will play Great Crossing again February 1st, so they'll be getting that matchup again. They held them to 71 points. They lost 60-71. Athens McGillis had 28 points, and Athens McGillis was a guy that I kind of got to know this summer, get familiar with his game. I really liked what he did. He scores the ball well. He's efficient. He has high intangibles, so I really like Athens as a player. So seeing him kind of help carry the load for this team and be, the number 1 option is great. He's averaging 23 points a game right now, and he's pairing it with multiple rebounds and multiple assists. So he's really showing up early here, and I expect him to do it, throughout the season. He's one of the top players in his region, and I think Covington Catholic and Coach Jake love to have him, and that's why they're one of my stock risers. South Laurel also, and South Laurel is going to have a really big test this week at King of the Bluegrass. We'll get into that here in a second, of course. But what I really like about South Laurel is the way Jordan May plays basketball. I think he's a D1 player. I know he committed to Alabama Huntsville at the D2 level, but I think he's a D1 level basketball player. I think he's a great basketball player. He's one of the, if not the best, interior defenders in the state, and it's hard to get that title when you're going up against like a guy like Malachi Moreno, a 7'1" big man going to Kentucky, elite shot blocker. Now I don't know if I would put Jordan over Malachi yet. That's a dangerous 1 and 2, man. It's hard to find 2 better interior defenders than Mabe and Malachi. Jordan Mabe right now, he's averaging 20 points a game, 9 rebounds. And the thing is that South Florida is not scoring a lot of points. They run a slower type of system. Their goal is to beat you through defense. Only 1, 2, 3 guys have scored double digits, and then you have a 20-point per game. Then you have a guy who scored 20 on the season, a guy who scored 30. Colton Rollins has scored 41, and Jordan Mabe has scored 80. So Jordan's been a long portion of the offense. Jordan's not really a guy who you're really going to be out here shooting a lot of threes. He shot 10 on the season, only hit 1. So that's not really where he's going to beat you. He's going to kind of beat you inside the arc in the post a little bit. So, Jordan definitely one of the better post players, traditional 4 centers that we have, which is going to make his matchup in King of the Bluegrass even more interesting. I promise we'll get to that here in a minute. And next up's Hazard. Hazard's always been one of the hardest places to play in the state. You never really want to go down to Hazard and play basketball. Daryl McCoy, who runs D&D Sports Network, has been telling me that since I've started. You never really want to go down there and play because it's loud, it's energetic, the fans get into the game, and things like that. So it's never somewhere you really want to go. And Hazard is 6-0 right now. And so you hear 6-0, and a lot of people don't respect the Eastern Kentucky talent scene. And sure, it might not be as strong as the Central or the Western, but a lot of people don't respect it. But here's the thing. They have those top teams they respect, and the top teams they respect is typically Ashland Blazer, Boyd County, Harlan County, Hazard. And what has Hazard did? They've beat Harlan County, and they beat Ashland Blazer. They have a win over both. And I know Ashland Blazer wasn't fully healthy. It's hard to judge Ashland Blazer right now because they've not been fully healthy. But the win against Harlan County was really good for their resume. They beat them 53-52. Evan Eversole has been one of the top players statewide so far. He is just playing phenomenal. He's an underrated name, and I love Dalton Combs to death, but a lot of people, when they hear Hazard, their first thought is Dalton Combs. And Dalton Combs, phenomenal player. I think he was one of the biggest stock risers this summer. I think he really built a name for himself. He got some offers that he really did deserve. So I love Dalton Combs. He's averaging about 12 for him right now. He really lit fire against Ashland Blazer. I think he shot 6 for 6 from 3. And, I love the way he plays. He's got some of that old school fundamentals into him. He hits ball fakes, little pump fakes. So I love that about about Dalton Combs. But Evan Eversole right now is averaging 21 a game and 10 boards. He is one of the best double-double threats every night. And, a lot of more people's getting familiar with his name. He's shooting 56% from the field, so you can't really complain about that. He shot 14 threes on the season. He's hit 5, so he's shooting about 36% from 3. But, he is really one of and there's people who would make the debate for a top 3 player in Eastern Kentucky. And I wouldn't really be opposed to it with how he's playing so far. You have your Maddox Huff, you have your Xander Carter, and then you have that next conversation. Is it a guy like I know it's more northeastern Kentucky toward West Virginia, but it's still over there in the mountains. So you got Jacob Spurlock comes to name for a lot of people right away. Reggie Cottrell is a name that comes up for a lot of people. But then you got an Evan Eversole and a Dalton Combs. And I'm not going to forget him because last time I forgot talking about him, but Seth Caudell, who's been the second best scoring on this team so far, averaging almost 13 a game. So, where does Hazard go from here? Hazard has one of the weaker schedules to finish it off. They got a lot of region games, but the Eastern Kentucky region games, they can get intense. So we'll see how that goes. They got Perry County Central and Leslie County next. Those will be some tests for them. Perry County Central's kind of, competed at times, didn't compete at times. So it'll be fun to see. Martin County will be fun, judging the electricity and some of the energy that Martin County has. Parker Watts has been Parker Watts has been one of the top names in Eastern Kentucky. Parker Watts right now is averaging 28 points a game and 8 rebounds. He's not the greatest shooter in the world, but he's so good inside. He's tall. He's really athletic. So a lot of people like Parker Watts over at Martin County. So that would be a fun matchup. Martin County versus Hazard. I think I'd have to take the Bulldogs of Hazard just in that one. But, it really does determine where they play. Now, here's the thing about Bowling Green. Bowling Green's on my stock risers, and some people's kind of complained all season. We've heard it all year that the 4th region's weaker than it's ever been. And, you can debate that. You can say that it's weaker than it's ever been. You can say that it's not as strong as it once was. But at the end of the day, it still has some really strong talent. And Bowling Green is without a doubt a top 2 to 3 team in that region. And they have a win against Franklin Simpson, dominated. They have a game against E-Town, dominated. And E-Town, keep a reminder, E-Town has played really good basketball this year. They're not winning games, but they lost to Central Hardin, who was undefeated until yesterday. They only lost to them by 7. They lost to Grayson County by 1 point off a Jack Loxton buzzer beater. Grayson County, one of the most respected young teams in the state. E-Town almost upset them. It was 62-61. And Adair County, who to me is still a top 20 team in the state of Kentucky. I know they had a rougher loss to Cumberland County, but I think a lot of people's realizing that Cumberland County is a lot more physical and a lot better than what people had said. But E-Town started their season only losing to Adair County by 7. So I think that the Bowling Green win against E-Town means a little more than what some people might give it. They beat Glasgow by 40 almost. They beat them by about 32 points. So they've won in dominant fashion. They ran into Adair County, and they lost by 4. Now, how do you judge that game? Because they run into Adair County and they're hurt. They're without Jace Wardlow, so it's kind of difficult to look at it. Some people might not know that. Deuce Bailey still getting in basketball shape, getting ready to start lacing up for the Purples is what I've been told. So once he's back, it makes, a whole different face of the team. A lot of people think Ace Bailey is one of the top 5 players in that 4th region for basketball. He's without a doubt the best football player, but in the basketball, they still think he's there. And I'll tell you one guy who has completely caught my eye and has completely gained respect, especially in the 4th region, and that's Joseph Hurt. Joseph Hurt has really put his name out there for me. He plays basketball with Griffin Elite. That was one thing I knew him. I knew him as the Griffin Elite guy who played for Griffin Elite, tall shooting guard. Shout out Steve Q for having a guy like him on his team because he has went under a lot of people's radar. He's a sleeper guy in the 4th region. But Joseph Hurt, he's a 6'5", 2 guard, and he had an electric game against Adair County. Adair County really struggled to stop him. Anytime you have 32 points on 77% from the field and 71% from 3, you're typically the best player on the floor. He paired it with 7 rebounds. So does Adair County win that game if Jace Wardlow's healthy? A lot of people says no, because we know Jace Wardlow's going to go get his 4 points to tie that game at 61. But does Joseph Hurt have that game if Jace Wardlow's not there? There's a lot of ways you got to look at it. There's a lot of what ifs, buts, So it's a weird to look at. But Bowling Green, without one of their top players, probably their top player, Jace Wardlow, when he was playing and when he was healthy, was electric. He was averaging 16 points for him and about 6 rebounds. So, he was kind of their top guy when he was healthy. So, do they win that game if he's healthy? I'll let you guys decide that. But Adair County, it's a good win against Bowling Green. That's a win they needed. They started off the season with a win against E-Town. Then they lost to Cumberland County. But since then, they've not lost. They beat Taylor County by 32 points. They beat Bullitt East. They beat Campbellsville. They beat Bowling Green. Now they'll play at Fairdale against North Oldham, which we'll get in that in a minute. But so Adair County starting to get some things rolling, getting their, the blood pumping. So, it's a good look for them for sure. We'll move on to the other team that we have on here, and that's George Rogers Clark. Now, George Rogers Clark added a nice transfer in, I've been told. I'm yet to talk to him about it, but I've had multiple people tell me, so we're going to go with it. Maddox Hager from Bull County is with GRC, I've been told. Now, how will he fit into that team? How will he fit into the systems? We'll see. There's a lot you got to, look at it. How does he, come in there and play beside another big-time forward and Montez Gay? How did they kind of work out? But I'll tell you this about Maddox Hager is he has potential to be one of the top players in the state of Kentucky in a few years. It's a really big grab for George Rogers Clark if everything has worked through. I've been told it has. I've heard he's already on the roster. He's listed on KSSAA, I've been told. So I think we can go ahead and say that he is a part of this team, so we can kind of start, put him in that conversation for, he's still to a lot of people one of the best 2027s in the state. Now he's on GRC paired up with another. With GRC might have the best 2027 roster. They're loaded. Everybody, a lot of people I talk to were like, well, in 2 years we could have GRC back competing for that state championship, maybe winning one. So, that's a big deal for GRC. It's a huge grab for them. Their schedule kind of starts to slow down a little bit these next 2 games. They got Fleming County and East Jessamine, but then they'll play LaRue County, who is another one of my sleeper teams that don't get much respect. And then they'll play Cooper. And we all know how good Cooper is. Cooper's not played a lot of games so far. Cooper's only played 2 games. They beat Simon Kenton. Then they got into a little bit of a battle with South Oldham, and they actually lost to South Oldham by 5 points. Andy Johnson had his 30-point performance as normal, shot 50%, one of the top players in the state of Kentucky. Definitely a top 10 2025. He's committed to UIC, great school. So, but they're another thing about Cooper is their schedule starts to pick up a little bit. They didn't start the season until December 10th. So, you got to look at Cooper a little differently. Got to see them get some more games on the board so we can fully judge them. But that's my stock risers for teams. DuPont Manual / J-Town. J-Town's the only one that I've not mentioned. I put out a tweet today about J-Town, and I want to give them a little bit of their own moment because J-Town has really, kind of stood up and, standed out to me so far through the season. let's go ahead and get this up for you all so we can read about this. So J-Town has won 5 straight games, 3 of them being in the last 3 days. It's hard to win 3 games in 3 days. It really is. It's hard not to get tired. They went 2-0 at Derby City Tip-Off with a really good win against Butler County. They hold wins against Spencer County, Butler County, and Pulaski County. They all made the state tournament last year. Some of those teams are dealing with injuries. Some of them lost a lot of guys, but it's still impressive on the resume, to beat a team with a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of, experience. The only 2 losses come against top 25 teams in North Laurel and DuPont Manual. J-Town lost those games by a combined 5 points. So, a couple possession swings, and these guys are 7-0, and they're without a doubt a top 10 team in the state if they win those 2 games. But, they're still making a debate to be in these lists. They really are. I've seen multiple other of the rankings are starting to put them in that top 25. Some's got them all the way up to 20. Prince Conplay was the kind of the talk of the town at the Derby City Tip-Off with games of 29 points, 30 points. He hits one more free throw. He goes 30 both games. But he was great. He's averaging 21 a game right now. Day Too Shifty, a.k.a. Davon Harrison, is back playing for him. He's been electric so far. Breon Faulkner is energetic as it gets. He's a great perimeter defender. He gets into some of the top guys in the state's face. He gets into their grill. There's not a matchup he doesn't like. So that's what I like about this J-Town team is how the physicality of them, the aggressiveness they play with, and, what they can be. They have 6 players right now who score over 8 points for the Chargers. I want to shout out Davon Harrison for hitting 1,000 points and Prince for hitting 2,000 points. So I wanted to go ahead. When I made these graphics, if you see, planned on doing the show yesterday. So it says 12/16. So it actually looks like the show would be on Monday. And, so I didn't get to add J-Town yet. But those are 2 of the teams that I also want to add on here. Let's go ahead and talk about stock risers and players. And I'll let you guys know some of the guys that is on here. I'm going to talk a little bit about. Some of these guys I don't have as much to say because some of these guys jumped on here through 1 game. Some of the guys played 2 or 3 games. That was great, so I can talk a little more on them. But then there's a few names that's actually not on here that I'm going to talk about. We already talked about Joseph Hurt. So Joseph Hurt we won't get into too much. But stock risers, Prince Conplay, we just talked on him. 21 points per game right now has helped J-Town be one of the best teams in Louisville, kind of statewide. They're a top 25 team right now for sure. They look really good. They continue to rise up rankings. I only expect it to, keep going up that way. I didn't really expect to say this start of the season, but we could be talking about J-Town being a top 15 team here in the next week or 2, depending how they win these games, how they continue to play. Jordan Mabe from South Laurel, had a little bit of a rant for him there just a few minutes ago, went for about 5 minutes. Jordan Mabe, D1 talent, amazing player, going to Alabama Huntsville D2. Great school. When you go to a school like that, man, you got to be happy. It's a great school. South Laurel looks really good right now. They're, I'll have them. I'll be talking about them here in a second again. But Landon Blakey over at LaRue County. I really like his game. We don't have a lot of guys who's over 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", and he's one of them. LaRue County is 4-1 so far. They have 1 loss to South Warren in a battle. It was 88-82. I'm sorry, South Warren. I wasn't really familiar with your game like that. Because, I had South Warren as one of the, worser, lower level teams in the 4th region. So, that was kind of a shock to me. LaRue has a good game tonight against Caverna. Then they'll play Grayson County. Then they'll play George Rogers Clark. So a really tough 3-game slate for them. That'll really help us be able to determine who is this LaRue County team. How do we kind of identify them? Landon Blakey's averaging 20 points a game right now and 13 rebounds. He's one of the best traditional big men we have, statewide. And the thing that Landon does better than some people is he has the confidence to step out and shoot a 3. He shot 10 on the season. He's only hit 2, but, maybe we expect that number to rise a little bit. But I really do like Landon's game. I like it all around. I posted him today as a stock riser. I think many people can agree. They're starting to figure out his name more. And a guy who's kind of similar to him in game is Blake Russell, who's right beside him. Got on the phone last night with Blake, got to talk to him a little bit about that win over DuPont. He was guarded by Justice Decker all night. And we all know Justice Decker is no hard guy to go, no easy guy to go against. Justice is one of the more physical, strong guys in the state of Kentucky. And Blake Russell was able to have a nice game. Shot 9 for 12, 19 points. I say nice game. That's a great game. He paired it with 7 rebounds. And, we talked about this Ballard win over DuPont. They didn't really get to the free throw line. They only shot 7 free throws on the night, but they shot 50% from deep. They shot 60% as a team. Sam Frazier, 24 points. Blake Russell, 19 points. Nick Hayden, 14 points. Nate Richardson added 7. So, really big win for Ballard. Like I said earlier, Ballard would jump on there for me as one of my stock rising teams. They have 2 losses on the season, and that's to Frederick Douglass and Woodford County, 2 other top 25, top 15 basketball teams. So, a possession changes those games tremendously. So, you don't really take too much away from them because they lost the game by 2 points, 4 points. It's a game you want to win, and you've got to look at the record sometimes. And when people start stacking up losses, it get rough. But when you get one loss, it's kind of determined, by a single possession. You're both top 20 teams. Not going to hold them too much accountable. You're going to say, well, that was a great matchup. 2 great teams, kind of keep them where they're at. So I like Ballard. I still like DuPont a lot. Jaden Washington, JJ Washington, he comes from an amazing family. So we know he's a great player. Really got to get my first taste of him recently against Lloyd Memorial. He's been a phenomenal player. Sent me his stats in through today. Jaden Washington, JJ Washington, some people call him. Really great kid. He's a really fun player. I refer to him as the high school Trey Man because the drip and some of the clothing and some of the things he's been wearing, he looks identical to Trey Man, and I really like it. Trey Man's helped a lot of people kind of, get back into that scenery of rocking certain, headbands, bringing back the cornrows, things like that. So I think it's awesome. But Jaden Washington right now is averaging 25 points a game for Cal. Cal recently added a new transfer in. They added Guy Turner from Boyle County, so a really good transfer to get. He's been playing some minutes so far. They won last night against Anderson County, which sets them at 2-2. They, they got some good wins right now, with beating Anderson County and playing Seneca. So, those are 2 games you like to have. They lose to Fern Creek. They only lose by 12 to Lloyd Memorial. And to me, Lloyd Memorial is the top 5 team of the state so far. So, they competed and they battled there. But I really do like what I've seen out of J.J. Washington so far. He's shooting 47% from deep, 51% from the field. Would have 9 more points if he could knock down a few more free throws, but still shooting 76% from the arc, close to being 50, 40, 80 from a shooting split. So he's a guy I recommend a lot of people get on. He plays for Phenom United last time I checked. He's a 2026. He's a stock riser for me. I think he's going to continue to rise up these stocks for me. So Jaden Johnson, a.k.a. JJ, I like him a lot. I like his game. And someone I'm definitely going to keep contacting and kind of watch more. Jason Gassaway took the show yesterday at Derby City in the Mel versus Woodford game. And he was lights out. I think everybody was talking to him. I was lined up on a sideline, and I think he was kind of the talk of the event. 23 points, I'm pretty sure. He was knocking down threes. He was fighting inside. He was physical. That game for me really kind of put him up there for him. You talk to a lot of people that was in that Mel circle, and they say, well, Jason has consistently kind of been the second best player on this team. And if you know Mel, they're a stacked basketball team. So that's a really big thing to take on, and, to be able to have it, be able to claim that some people think that. But, Jason's a senior. So, some people are already familiar with him and his game. But, he was great. He really was great. He was so physical inside. He was battling for boards with Armello, Thurman Wade every play, the big man, Carson Probst for Woodford County almost every time. So it was really impressive on him to show the physicality. I like his game a lot. He can step out. He can shoot the 3. He can play defense. He gets others involved. And, being a senior, you're always a big leader for these guys, and the guys respect him. So I'm really big on Jason Gassaway's game. I'm really big on how he played. So he's one of my stock risers from week 2. Let's get into a little bit of the controversial part, and this can get some people mad. Some people love it. But let's talk about our top 10 teams in the state of Kentucky right now. Was unable to, fit all 10 teams, so we're going to turn the ticker on, and we're going to let this roll. But here's my top 10 teams in the state of Kentucky right now through 2 weeks. It's a hard list to make. It's not easy at all. We'll let it reset. St. X takes the number 1 spot. A lot of people, including myself, thought St. X deserved to be number 1. I thought they were the best, all-around playing team. They might have not have had the Malachi Moreno or the Xander Carter or the E.J. Walker, but they just played so well together. I think, I wrote a lot of notes in my phone on what to say here, but I kind of wanted to, give just a, little natural feel on them. I think they kind of embody teamwork and team play better than anybody in the state. I think the way that they run their platoon systems of 5 and 5 and, some people's not big on that. They think they should play the top players consistently. They don't like how Klein maybe plays this 5 then, this 5 now, but it's working. It really is working. At the Derby City tip-off, it was in full effect. They beat Holy Cross 100-38. And they beat Great Crossing by 12. They beat them 72-58. I guess that would be 14 points. That's on me, guys. But, it's a really big win for St. X because that was kind of everybody's top 2. So I think whoever came out of that one was going to be consistently claimed as the best team in the state for at least another month, probably another month or 2. Graham Kresman, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name great. I know I probably messed that up. But, he was on fire. He shot 5 for 7 from deep. He had 19 points. He stood out in that great crossing win. Freshman Josh Lindsay, the human highlight reel. Take the highlights and things posted away. Josh is truly, grown as a player so much through the summer, through the regular season. When he was the number one scorer for them against Holy Cross, he led them in scoring, and then he was second in scoring against Great Crossing, scoring 13 points on 5 for 10 shooting. That's big time. To see a freshman coming off the bench playing the number one team in the state at the time and scoring more than some of their top guys. That's a big feat to have, to your resume early. They're currently having 6-7 guys score double-digit points a game, so you can't really beat that at all. Coach Klein and his guys, I say it all the time, they're probably some of the best player coaches. They get these guys to give 110% every time. They really work the most out of these guys. They sit at 5-0. They have a big game coming up against Lloyd Memorial in the King of the Bluegrass. That'll be fun. Because if you look down, I have Lloyd Memorial at number 3. Some people think that's too high. Some people think it's too low. So we'll kind of get into that here in a second. But I've seen some people have Lloyd Memorial at 2, but I think they're comfortably sitting at 3. But we'll go to number 2, which is Great Crossing. We've talked about Great Crossing a lot. They go to the City of the Palms, and then they'll go to Myrtle Beach. They'll play in some huge big-time events. So that's when we'll really get to see them play on, the national level. They'll play Columbus with the Boozer twins, both committed to Duke and some multiple other great talents. So, it's going to be really fun to judge them as a team when they play, probably the best high school in the country. So that'll be big. They beat Covington Catholic. They beat Douglas. They beat Du Bois. They beat Montgomery. They beat Blazer. They beat Franklin County. They had the best resume in the state until the game against St. X, and it's still a game that's not terrible because, they're number 2, but St. X kind of proved they were the number 1 team in that win. You could say home court had a lot of dealing to do with it, but, it's a big win for St. X. They needed that win. It's a loss you don't want for Great Crossing, but if they're able to move away from it quick, go on to their next slate of games and some of their tournaments, they could make a big-time name for themselves this week when they're playing in Florida. And, I expect them to. So, let's move on past them. We'll go to Lloyd Memorial. Some people think Lloyd Memorial is a little too high, a little too low. I told you that. But, Lloyd Memorial's real test will come this week. They'll play St. X Wednesday at the Fairdale. They'll play in the AIT where they'll play Harlan County. They'll play Covington Catholic, and then they'll play Holy Cross Covington. So the hardest games for Lloyd Memorial are right now. They have probably the toughest 4-game slate right here in the state. So we'll see how they play through it. We'll see how they perform. It'll really get to judge us on this team exactly how they are. So that's what I'm saying right now. They beat Cal by 12 points. They beat Newport Central Catholic by 28. They beat Ryle by 8. Ryle's a really solid team. Not the greatest team, but, it's a win. You wanted to see a little more from Lloyd. So a big complaint for a lot of people with Lloyd Memorial is they're not necessarily scoring the ball a lot. Compared to how high you'd like him to be. I'd like to see him put some more points on the board, of course, but E.J. Walker's been really, really, really good so far. He's averaging 22 points, 12 rebounds, about 5 assists, and he's, always going to be consistently the most physical guy on the court, typically inside, and he can stretch out and guard the perimeter. We know the player he is. Anthony Blackar has averaging 20 points as well, grabbing 5 rebounds, the guard for this team, running the floor, running transition, getting these guys open, picking pops with E.J. Walker. So Anthony really rising his stock as well. Great player, one of my favorites in the 2026 class. But we'll really be able to tell how Lloyd is coming into King of the Bluegrass. If they lose to St. X, do you drop them? It's hard to, judging they're the best team in the state. If they compete heavy, lose by 2 or 4 points, you don't drop them at all without a doubt, but we'll see how that goes. Number 4, here's the controversy. I have Louisville Male. A lot of people's been quick to drop Louisville Male. I've seen them all the way as low as 14. I don't agree with that at all. I'm really highly against that. Cole Edlin is injured right now. He's going to be out for a little longer. So we're not going to be able to see fully healthy 100% Male, so they're hard to judge. But, how will they react? How will they play off of this Cole Edlin injury? They play a lot of games in consecutive days. They play tonight. They play Thursday. They play tonight. They play Thursday, and then the games keep coming when you play at King of the Bluegrass. Will they be able to beat Frederick Douglass at King of the Bluegrass without Cole Edlin? That's a hard question. That really is a hard question. Frederick Douglass is starting to get things going right now. They're starting to get that name, that identity. So, it's going to be really hard to win that game. It is going to be hard to win that game. They have a good win on the resume against Oxford, Alabama. They beat Eastern. They beat Trinity without Jaden Johnson by 18 points. And, they lost to Lexington Catholic. Not going to hold the 4-point loss to them too hard. They're without Cole Edlin. Lexington Catholic is a great team, in my opinion. I know some people have them ranked low, some people have them in the top 20. I agree with that statement. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Mel is able to play and grow as a team without Cole Edlin. I heard he could be up to, about another month, of injury, maybe 6 weeks. So it's going to be a while until we see Cole Edlin again. So let's see how this team looks. Let's see how they play. Let's see how they grow as a team. I know Coach Hathworth, Coach Edlin is really going to be pushing these guys to another level. And, this is really going to prove who they are. Number 5 is Callaway County. Callaway County is the best county school in the state, in my opinion, without a doubt. They set at number 5. Now, it's hard to judge. It's hard to judge Callaway because a lot of people's not seen a lot of them. And why they've not seen a lot of them, they've played a lot of games, but they've played a lot of out-of-state games. They've played Tennessee teams about 5 of their 6 or 7 games so far. They beat Haywood, Tennessee. They beat Clarksville Academy. They beat Father Ryan and Evangelical. Now, their key win is Pope John Paul out of Tennessee from Hendersonville. They're consistently one of the top teams in Tennessee. They're a great team. They've produced multiple college guys. So it's a really good team. Would beat a majority of teams in Kentucky. So that's a big win against Pope John Paul. Obviously, Connor Lockhart banged the buzzer beater. They've played one in-state team so far and won, and that was against Graves County. Jonah Butler had a weaker night. He couldn't get shots to fall. So, that would have probably been a 20-point win if Jonah Butler wasn't really kind of out of his rhythm, but he's getting back in his rhythm. They played Evangelical, and he kind of started getting back into it a little bit. He got 15 points. Eli Finley is starting to rise. I think Eli Finley has been one of the best point guards in the state now for the last 2 years. He's averaging 18 points right now and 5 rebounds. Not sure on the assist numbers, but I like Eli Finley as a player a lot. He's a hard worker. He's a great offensive player, really good leader and floor general. So Eli Finley, Jonah Butler, Armstrong, Connor Lockhart, that's a really good team over there in Callaway County that's not going to want to be messed with. So they come in and they round out the top 5 for me. Number 6 is Bryan Station. Now, here's my concern with Bryan Station. They've not really played any elite talent yet. And that's no diss on who they've played. But when you see some of the guys above them, Callaway County beat one of the top teams in Tennessee. Kentucky, what Great Crossing's done, what St. X has done. Lloyd Memorial got a good win against Cal. Now, Lloyd Memorial and Bryan Station are 2 teams that's not really had to play elite competition yet. So it's harder to judge them. But I do think Bryan Station has a good win against Montgomery and Eastern. Not great wins, but good wins. They beat Madison Central by 20. They beat Western Hills by 30. They beat Paul Lawrence Dunbar by 50. So they've kind of won in dominant fashion right now. Their offense is putting up 80 a game, and it is so stretched out between different guys. Amari Owens is going to be your superstar for Bryan Station every night. He's averaging 26 points a game right now, but I'm interested to see how guys like the rest of the offense kind of turns up. 8 guys are all averaging over 3 points right now. Tayshawn Adams and Rashad Faulkner are on the verge of 10 points per game. And the worry for me is the 3-point shooting too. This team has shot 81 threes on the season. They've hit 32. If you do the math, it's about 40%. But, they're only hitting about 6 a game. So you'd like to see more shots get up. Amari Owens is 7 for 20 from the 3-point line. A lot of people's critiqued his shooting. It puts him at 35% from the year. Shots are going to start falling for him. And when Amari Owens starts hitting the 3-pointer consistently, it's going to be dangerous. And he's kind of showing he can do that. So that's why he's been one of the best players in the Lexington area, best players in the state so far throughout the season. Number 7 is Frederick Douglass. I had Frederick Douglass possibly getting all the way up to top 5 in my preseason because I said when they hit their full strength, when they hit their full stride, Coach Garvin, Coach Smith gets these guys, ready, playing to their best strength. Surratt starts getting going. Jenkins starts getting going. And they're still kind of looking for that number 3 guy to take over for them. I think it'll eventually become Tate Robinson. I think Tate Robinson will end up being the number 3 option for this team. So far, he has been. He's averaging 8.5 points, but Terry Case and Logan Bussin. Nate Cohen is a guy that I would really like to see hit his full potential. Nate Cohen has great size at about 6'7", so I think he can end up being one of the top players on this team. Right now for Nate Cohen, though, only averaging 4 points and 2 rebounds. So, maybe he's not playing as much as I thought he might. Maybe something like that's happening, but I've not been able to catch him too much. Going to be able to see him at King of the Bluegrass, which I'm really excited for. But DeMarcus Surratt has been one of the top players in the state. We knew he was. He's averaging 20 points a game right now. He's so electric when he goes inside. And, he's tasked with scoring on somebody. And he's shooting 44% from 3-point line. So that's what really, stands out about DeMarcus. Jante Jenkins right now is shooting 36% from 3, 60% from the field. He's averaging 17.5 points. I want to hear your all's opinion. Who's the best guard duo right now in the state? Is it Surratt and Jenkins at Frederick Douglass? They're definitely up there, I think. But, I don't know if we have a clear number one for that best guard duo. I think that's something we're going to have to see kind of be established. At number 8 is Hazard. A lot of people's not big on the Eastern Kentucky singing. They don't think they have the best talent. I was talking about that earlier. But Hazard has dominated Eastern Kentucky. They have wins over probably the 2 other best teams in Eastern Kentucky, not named Hazard, which is Ashland Blazer and Harlan County. They've beat them both. Evan Eversole has been a monster. He's been maybe the best player in the East. I'm not going to say that because Xander Carter and Maddox Huff has been electric, and if you put Boyd County in Eastern Kentucky, Spurlock has been amazing. But Evan Eversole's averaging 20 points and 10 rebounds right now at night for the Dogs. It's hard to play over there at the Bulldogs arena because they're so electric, they're so loud, they get into it. It's not a good place you want to play. My complaint with Hazard is they don't really have too many big-time games on the way. They don't really have any big games where they can win and say, where are we going to improve at? They don't really have any of those games where we're like, this is where they beat this elite level team. Now, without a doubt, they're here. Have they already got that win in Ashland Blazer? And Ashland Blazer's harder to judge where they've had a lot of injuries and they've had some things mess up to them. But it'll be really fun to judge this team whenever we get to see them, if they win that region and come to state tournament. So, Hazard right now playing really good basketball in Eastern Kentucky. They got 2 really good wins under their belt. We'll see how the rest of their schedule goes. Number 9 is Ashland Blazer. I'm not moving off from Ashland Blazer. They dealt with injuries. They've had guys out all season. They're just now starting to get healthy. They had that huge win against Boyd County, which I really think woke people up again like, hey, Ashland Blazer is this good of a team. They have 2 losses on the season. They competed with Great Crossing better than anybody so far. They lost 95-89 in overtime, lost by 6. Honestly, should have won that game. They really should have. They were up 81-78 late. They don't foul. Burrell gets the ball, hits a 3 to go to overtime. But without that shot, they win that game, and it's a whole different story. And then they go on and they play Hazard. They lose by 7. But since then, they've been electric. They beat Archbishop Alter. They beat Fairview. They beat Boyd County. They got a big game at KLB against Woodford County, which will be able to help tell us a lot. They still got games of GRC. They still got games of Huntington Expression Prep, not Huntington Prep, Expression Prep. They still got to play Corbin. They still got to play Danville Christian. So we're going to learn a lot about this Blazers team, especially when they're healthy. Xander Carter continues to look like a top 5 player in the state of Kentucky. A lot. People got him ranked 3. Not mad at that at all. And, that might be where he is for me as well. He sure as hell has played like it so far. Let's go ahead and finish this top 10 teams out with South Laurel. We talked about him earlier. Jordan Maid has always been, one of the top players in the state of Kentucky for me for how he just plays defense inside, how he's dominant inside force. He's a great player. Colton Rollins has stepped up. They got a really good win against North Laurel, which you like to see. They're 4-0. They also beat Montgomery County. I know some people don't think Montgomery County is great yet, but Coach Hayes is a great coach. I think Tice Jarvis is one of the better 2027s. They're just a young team, but they're electric. And if you guard them well, they won't go off on fire. But some people's not been able to guard them, and when they get on fire, it's a hard team to beat. But they've been able to beat Montgomery County, and so South Laurel rounds it out at number 10 for me. Let's talk about our honorable mentions. Louisville Trinity. How do you feel about Louisville Trinity? A lot of people think they're overrated. Some people think they're properly rated. I like Louisville Trinity a lot. I love their roster. I love Jaden Johnson as a player. I love Juju Edmonds. I love Josiah. I love the whole roster. I love all of them, how they play as a team. I think they're so good on defense, but I'd like to see them put more points on the board. They're only averaging 66 right now. They're not a really known for being an offensive team, but they just lost to Princeton, Ohio, only putting up 41 points. They went to overtime with Atherton. They won 83-75 on Jaden Johnson's kind of big first game back. They lost to Mel early in the year, of course, without Jaden. So, like I said, I've said it for a lot of teams. We're going to be able to figure out who they are in this next month big time because the schedule for Trinity gets rough. They play South Laurel at Fairdale. They'll play Callaway County. They'll play North Oldham. They'll play Covcath. They'll play St. X at Bellarmine. So this next month for Trinity is going to tell a lot so we can know who they are as a team. We're going to see how Jaden Johnson plays, how Julius Edmonds plays. That's really going to be able to judge them for us. Covcath is up there for me, of course, with just how they've played so far in GRC. We've talked about them a lot already during this show. Go back a little bit if you want to hear me talk about it. But Athens McGillis has been great for Covcath. GRC so young, but they play so veteran. They have a good win against Campbell County. So, GRC would kind of be my 12-13 type team. Then I probably would have a Dare right there. But that's my top 10 teams so far. Malachi Moreno and Chance Dillingham. Those are pictures from Captured by Jacobs. And I want to make sure we do this right. I always want to credit the photographers. Thanks for everybody who helped make this show possible. That's my sponsors. Let's give the sponsors one more shout out. Grayville Funeral Home, Stacy's on Main, Tent Studios, Patton Funeral Home, and Vet City Barbershop. We're always open to having more sponsors join the show, join the lineup. But right now, those are the group that we have on here with us. Bryce Stevenson, thank you for the photo of Malachi Moreno that we used. And Chance Dillingham's photo comes from Captured by Jacob. Two of the most known, respected guys in the state of Kentucky. Chance Dillingham plays for St. X, which is our number 1. Malachi Moreno plays for Great Crossing, which is our number 2. Let's shift the show. I said we'd have a second section. Let's go into that second section. So far, we need to talk about the KOB preview. I want to talk about King of the Bluegrass. I want to talk about how I think the event will go. I'm not going to fill out the bracket just because I'm not as familiar with the Arkansas and Florida team that's coming in and playing. So I feel like I would be doing those teams wrong. I feel like I could not really be too, you couldn't take what I say to, the high standard of credibility just because I don't know the team coming in from Arkansas and the team coming in from Florida as well as some others might. But let's talk about King of the Bluegrass a little bit. 28 games, 16 teams. It happens in 5 days. It gets played in 2 gyms. There's only one King of the Bluegrass, and we're lucky to have it here in Kentucky. It's put on by Fairdale, a great group of people, sponsored by Gardner Law, King of the Bluegrass. But let's talk about these games. Wednesday at 6 p.m., it's at the top of the bracket, you'll see, is Fairdale versus Butler County. Butler County has been unfortunate as it gets. They really have not been able to run away from the injury bug. We've seen Ty Price sit out in one of the preseason games due to some ankle things. He's back. He's putting on good performances. He's putting on great shows, continuing to improve. He's one of the top guards in the state of Kentucky. But Fairdale's one of those teams that's really starting to get it going now. They still lost some games that I think a lot of us can agree they should have won. But Coach Stennett's really happy with his team right now. He's really happy with how they look. They have played a lot of games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They played 7 games so far. They set at 5-2. I really liked how they played against Whitehaven, which is one of the better teams in Tennessee. They lost by 8, but if they have that win under their belt and they're 6-1, I think a lot of people talk about Fairdale differently. I think we see them in a lot more rankings. So I do like the Fairdale team. I think this is where we really get familiar with them and how they are, in these next following, days, weeks. How will they play at KOB? They'll play Louisville Butler January 8th. So that's when we'll kind of get to figure out who Fairdale is. We talked about how young Fairdale is. They just might. They're definitely in debate. They still have some guys out right now that they're waiting to get. They have a guy that is coming through the transfer process, kind of getting everything, trying to get him eligible. But Mahalo has been playing great for him. Kamari Roberts, Michael Ray Stennett starting to get it going from 3-point line. And Fernandez Wright is one of the best bigs in the state of Kentucky. So we're going to see how they play out. They're so young, so it's hard to judge them right now. We'll really be able to judge this team, come February when we have got to see a lot of wins under their belt, a lot of games, see how they play. They still play Cooper. They still play Du Bois. Those are going to be 2 fun games. They play Holy Cross Louisville. So they got a few games that's really going to tell us who they are as a team. And I'm really excited for those ones. Let's go back and look at this bracket. Who do I pick to win in the Fairdale-Butler County game? Clayton DeWeese is now out for Butler County. Lawson's still out. So the team's hurt. The team's banged up. But when you got a guy like Ty Price on your team, it's hard to count him out a lot of times. Briar Griffin starting to get it going a little bit. Justin Castlin has been the second-best player on Butler County all season so far. So it's always going to be hard to shut down Ty Price. But how can you guard and contain the other guys? Sometimes when Ty goes so explosive from 3, whenever he gets so many points, whenever he plays so well, it don't matter about the other guys sometimes. But I do think Butler County, with their experience, can get past Fairdale. But I do think Fairdale, with the size of Fernandez Wright, with the Coach Stennett's coaching, how he goes into these big games, I do think Fairdale could pull this one out. I'm split on this one. I really am. I love both these teams a lot. So I am really split on this one. This is one you'll have to ask me tomorrow right before it starts. Thursday, we got Male versus Douglas. If Cole Edlin's playing, I'm taking Male 100, 100, 100. But with him being out right now, it's harder to judge. How will Surratt and Jenkins play with the younger guards in for Male? Jordan Mitchell has really stepped up to the task so far and played good for Male. We were just talking about Jason Gassaway, who's looked great so far for Male. And James Clark, how will he play? How will Keyshawn Jordan be able to play in the paint against a guy like Nate Cohen? There's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of what will happen. So I think I'm going to take Frederick Douglass in that game due to the fact with Cole Edlin out for Mel. I think it'll be a huge learning curve and a huge boost to Mel, though, even if they lose that game and keep it close. just kind of letting them know, look, this is what we need to improve on, and we're still a great team, even without our superstar in Cole Edlin. Ashland versus Woodford County, headlined by two elite guards. It's going to be headlined by Xander Carter with Ashland, and it's going to be headlined by Armello Boone with Woodford County. Now, Omari Joyner, I talked to him the other day. Pretty confident Omari's going to be back. So you get that 2027 back to pair with Thurman Wade. Then you have Thurman and Omari back, and Armello. Omari Joyner, one of the top 2027s in the state. Him being back, it's going to make a huge impact. Thurman Wade's been playing pretty solid so far. Armello Boone got it going this weekend against Mel despite the loss. I'm going to take Ashland because the way Ashland's getting fully healthy, the way Xander Carter's continue to play, Preston, Drew Smith, Caleb, just how all these guys are starting to get healthy. Braxton Jennings is back. I've heard they've had a few more other guys out, but they're going to be 100% back for this. So I'm going to take Ashland that game. St. X and Lloyd Memorial is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's Wednesday at 7:30. How will E.J. Walker play against St. X is a big tell. If St. X isn't able to contain E.J. Walker, it could, get out of hand. But what if E.J. Walker doesn't go for a 25 or 30-point performance? St. X is able to play their elite team basketball, which is everybody on the floor involved. Everybody plays 110%. They're the number one team in the state. It's hard to pick against St. X. I'm going to take St. X in that game, but I think that one's going to be a battle. I think it is. I think a lot of people think it might be a 14, 15-point win like it was against Great Crossing. It does depend on what version of Lloyd Memorial we get. I want to see them play a little better than they did against Cal this weekend, but I'll take St. X in that one. That's no disrespect to Lloyd Memorial. I think they're a phenomenal team, but it's hard to find a team right now better than St. X, and that's why no one has anybody ranked over St. X, because they're yet to lose. They're winning in dominant fashion. They beat the number 2 team in the state in Great Crossing, so it's hard to pick against St. X. Trinity South Laurel is one I'm really excited for Thursday because Jordan Mabe versus Julius Edmonds are two physical, inside, interior big men who kind of have similar skill sets in a way. Jordan's a little taller. So seeing those guys go at it, you say, well, they might cancel each other out. So how will Jaden Johnson take over for Trinity and help push them over the top against South Laurel? We'll see. That's a lot on Josiah and Jaden Johnson's back, to see how they'll perform against South Laurel. Now, Colton Rawlings could have a big game for South Laurel. Put in his normal 10, 12 points, maybe boost that. Maybe go out for 20, and he could put them over the edge. It's all about how some of the other stars on the team step up. And I think in this one, I'm going to take Trinity because I do think Jaden Johnson has heard some of the people making comments on Twitter saying things. I do think Jaden Johnson is going to have a huge game against South Laurel and be able to push them over the top. Adair County versus North Oldham. I'm taking Adair County in this one, and it's no diss on North Oldham because I really like North Oldham as a team. I've said it once, I'll say it again. Austin Sears has been one of the better 2028s in the state so far, and he's made such an impact for them. They've lost 2 games on the season. They've won their other 4 or 5. Brooks Cargill is averaging 16 a game right now. Gray Schmidl, I'm not going to pronounce that because I think I'll say it wrong, but Gray's averaging 10 too. I like some of the size. I like the size that Adair has over him. I think Adair is starting to get the wheels turning, starting to get everything going. Let's not forget, Adair County battled with Lyon County last year in the state tournament. They brought back almost everybody. They made a good run in that state tournament. They're a state tournament team. They're supposed to win that 5th region, and they're starting to get going. And it's hard to pick against Adair County and Coach Breeze when they're starting to get going. Connor Loy has looked like one of the best guards in the state all year. Isaiah Cochran fully healthy now. So I'm going to take Adair County in that one for the first game of King of the Bluegrass at 4:30. Let's talk about Newport versus Bryan Station. This one's going to be electric. This one's going to be a lot of fun. Newport, Bryan Station, why I like this game. Newport's lost a few recently, so a lot of people's down on Newport, but I still love the team. I think Coach will really get these guys in the right headspace for an event like this because this is a win. This is a game where you got a lot to prove. Last year, you got to play this tournament with Taylor Kinney. Now you're without him. You're still without Yamil Rondon. But let me say this. I've been hyping him up ever since. I think Deshaun Anderson is one of the best defenders. I don't care if he excels at the perimeter defenders. I think he's one of the best defenders in the state of Kentucky right now. I think the Lowe brothers add so much to this team. I think Amonte Lowe is a phenomenal playmaker who can play that point guard role for him right now while Yamil is out. I think Griffin Starks is kind of getting better every game so far. And James Turner will be a big voice in this game. James Turner will be mashing up a lot of times, I feel like, with Tayshawn Adams, seeing how they go up against each other. James Turner, one thing I've talked about him all season, how will he be able to accept that number 2 role? How will he be able to play taking more jump shots, taking more threes, being more of an offensive dominant player for him? And he's done pretty solid so far. He's averaging 13 points a game for him, and so is Griffin Starks. It's all about how those top big guys kind of perform for them is how we pick for them. They lost to Campbell County by 4. They lost to Ryle by 6. Not losses you want. They're keeping it close, which is respectable, but they're not losses you want. They're really not. But they had that win against Davis County, which I really like to see, and I'm really excited to see that. So what will we see from Newport? I'm not sure. Sometimes we see the version that's pushing 70 points. Sometimes we see them score 43 points. They're a hard team to judge. I had them in the top 10 last week when I did it. But like I said, they had those 2 losses against Ryle and Campbell County. I think they had the chance to redeem themselves against Bryan Station. And let me talk about Bryan Station a little bit. Amari Owens loves to drive inside, loves to get in the paint, loves to get physical, loves to score at the rim. Will the size of Newport allow Amari Owens to do that? That's a big question. We've seen some of the teams not been able to handle Amari Owens at the rim, but have they played a team of this size yet in this physical? Griffin Starks, James Turner, D1 level guys, both have big-time offers. They've played guards and people like this before. Will they be able to slide over and stop him getting to the paint? But I think some people sleep on just how good Amari Owens is. If Amari Owens is getting to the rim and his shot's falling, I'm taking Bryan Station without a doubt. I'm interested to see how the complimentary guys and some of the other boys on the team help out Bryan Station. I think Newport needs this win a lot. I really do. I think Coach Rod Snapp and the guys really need this for the Wildcats up at Newport. I think they'd like to make a run in this event. So this is one I'm really undecided on. I'm more confident on picking, Butler over Fairdale or Fairdale over Butler than this one. This one's just a hard game to pick. I'm going to end up taking Newport winning this one because I think these guys have heard some of the talk. I think they need this win. They've heard people saying they're overrated. They were too highly, put on things. But when they got the way they played against Davis County, I think was a really good win. I think Coach Snapp is a really good coach. I think he gets these guys ready for big games. This is a big game. They need this one. It's going to be intense. I think it could come down to the wire. I don't see a blowout. I don't see a blowout in Bryan Station, Newport in any way. Now, if there is a blowout, there goes my credibility. But I think that's just a hard game to judge. I could easily see Bryan Station coming out on top in that one. I could easily see Newport. It's one of those games. It's just hard to pick. Similar to, a Woodford. All these games are hard to pick because they're filled with the best teams in the state of Kentucky with the top names. So it shouldn't be easy to pick these games on who should win. But, my gut leans toward Newport in this one. But don't forget, there's a consolation bracket on the left side. So all these teams will continue to be able to play. But then we move on to Bryan, Arkansas, and Monterey Lakes. Now, I like Lakes because former NBA two-guard, super good three-point shooter, Raja Bell's son plays for Monterey Lakes. Ty Bell already has multiple D1 offers as a 2028 freshman. He's a fun player to watch, man. I think he's going to get a lot of people excited. Like I said, I don't know these out-of-state teams as well as I wish I did, so it's hard for me to talk too much on them. I really don't know a lot about Bryan, Arkansas, other than the fact that they have a kid going to Little Rock, Arkansas, I'm pretty sure. So, this is one where my credibility, I think it stays intact here just because I don't know these two teams too well. But I'm going to go with Monterey Lakes because I think Ty Bell has been great. He's averaging about 30 points a game down there for him, son of NBA guard Raja Bell. So I'm going to go with them. We move on. Say how these games wins. We'll have second rounds. We'll have third rounds. Say we'll see a Frederick Douglass versus Fairdale, Frederick Douglass versus Butler County. Anybody who wins these games, we're going to see an electric matchup in round 2. I picked Trinity to beat South Laurel, and I picked Adair County to win. Adair County versus Trinity would be a lot of fun. That one would be a lot of fun. Seeing Isaiah Cochran and Jaden Johnson going at it. Juju Edmonds getting in there too. So, there's a lot of good games that's going to be going on at KOB. KOB does the best job at, assembling the best talent against each other. It's going to be a lot of fun. It starts tomorrow. It'll last till Sunday. I won't be out there, and Saturday and Sunday I'll be taking a trip to Overtime Elite, but I'm really excited to see who wins these games. I'll be watching them over there, on the phone. Now, how to watch these games, I'll let everybody know because I know some people's trying to figure out, well, I can't make the event. I live too far. I want to see how it goes. So, kind of keep me updated and let me know. Let me go ahead and pull this up for everybody. So let me know how I can watch this event. And let me go ahead and tell you all.
I live too far.
I actually was able to limit this. So we were not live tonight on Facebook. Today was kind of a Twitter-only show. That wasn't on purpose. Our Facebook just wasn't able to, get everything running, which sucks. But we still had a large audience hop on here from Twitter. So thank you, everyone who did that. Just got it put back up on Facebook so some of the people can check it out. But for everybody that able to tune in today, thank you so much. This was a little bit of an odd time show. I know we had a lot of players tune in and enjoy the show. I know we had a lot of coaches join in. I've had some text messages already. So thank you. How do you watch the King of the Bluegrass tournament? Well, let me tell you. Go to fan.huddle.com/Fairdale Bulldogs. Select King of the Bluegrass game. Create yourself an account or a login. Now, it's not free. You can choose a day pass. It's $15. You can watch all the games for the day. Or you can choose a tournament pass for only $30, where you can watch every game. I'll be honest with you. There's 28 games for $30. It's about $1 a game. That's a must-go for me. Buy the tournament pass for $30. You can watch all of the games. Once again, there's 28 games, 16 different teams. It's a 5-day event. It's going to be done in 2 gyms. There's only one King of the Bluegrass, and we're blessed to have it. Download the Huddle TV app on Watch or on Apple Watch. Download Huddle TV app to watch on TV or phone. This is brought to you by Gardner Law at Huddle. So that's how you do it. We shared it on our Facebook. It's on Twitter. Go follow King of the Bluegrass Holiday Classic on Facebook, on Twitter, so you can know how to watch and enjoy the show. But yes, once again, thank you everyone who was able to tune into the show today. This has been the Joe Show. I'm your host, Joseph Decker. We've been busy. We've been working. We've been doing a lot recently. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. We got some new sponsors that we recently added that we'll be putting on the list here in the next following days. And I'm really glad to add them to the list because I think there's some great ones that you guys will really like to see. But without further ado, thank you everybody for watching. Tune in the next week because we're going to be having some new people as sponsors. We're going to be having some fun shows with some fun guests. We're going to be covering this King of the Bluegrass event once it's all said and done. We're going to be talking about the Overtime Elite experience. Join us in the next week or two for Week 3 Kentucky High School basketball preview. This has been the Week 2 overview. This has been the Hype Up preview for King of the Bluegrass. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. This one did even better than last time, so I can't complain with that. Thank you for watching the show. This is Joseph Decker. God bless. Everybody have a great rest of the night. Players watching, have yourself a good game tonight. I know a lot of people's playing tonight. Parents, everybody have safe travels. Everybody stay safe. We've seen some injuries. Really want to see that, so I ask God to keep everybody healthy on the floor. Thank you for watching. God bless. Tune in next time. Thank you.